Okay, sick. This is the upstairs of my house. It is soon to be a new bedroom and stuff like that, but right now we have guests over at my house, and we all just went and watched Spider-Man, and I have my little ultimate guide here that I got forever ago when I was a kid that I thought I could show off while I talk about the new Spider-Man Brand New Day movie, because I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fabulous, and I thought it was a very, very fitting Spider-Man story. I thought, one, I'll say no spoilers for now, and I will say like a little, I'm going to be spoiling stuff now in a second. I thought it was extremely fitting for like a story for Spider-Man. I think it's a very good culmination of like all the movies thus far. It's also, I've been kind of burnt out on the MCU, and I haven't really particularly cared for any of the newer movies that have been coming out, especially since like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I think it was, came out. So I haven't really cared for any of the Marvel movies. And then they dropped the trailer for Brand New Day, and I remember thinking, wow, ooh, that looks really freaking good. And I remember seeing that costume that's in Brand New Day and thinking, that is the best looking, sorry, that's extremely loud. I don't have it insulated up here yet. I'm working on that. But that looks like the best costume in a live action Spider-Man that I've seen yet. And so I just really enjoyed that, and I wanted to share my thoughts on it because I think that it is, I don't know if it's the best one. It's up there in contention with Into the Spider-Verse because that's my favorite Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man media period, like of all time, because holy cow, that's good. Sorry, it's really hot up here and I don't have the AC set up upstairs yet. It's in the middle of summer right now, right? Like I think it's Brand New Day came out yesterday or the day before. So anyways, I really enjoyed it though. And now I am going to be talking about some spoilers. There was a point in the movie where this is spoilers territory, so let's, everybody that doesn't want spoilers, au revoir, I'll see you later. I'll put a little timestamp once I figure out how to do that for YouTube videos in the description of like when I'm not spoiling anymore. Give it a second. Okay, and so now, during the movie, I remember there was a certain part where his powers, like the arachnid hormones, as they call them in the movie, are like swelling and growing. And I remember thinking, wow, this looks like it and feels like it's obviously supposed to be like the introduction of like the symbiote, like Venom and things like that, and like setting up for him to have that in Avengers Doomsday. But it's also like, I understand like that with the, now I could talk about the comics and like the spirit of the other and like how he fights Mulan and different creatures in the comics. I'm trying to find that actually real quick. But I really enjoyed I thought the length was totally fine. That was another thing that I didn't mind. And I really, really enjoyed the relationship dynamic between him and MJ and Ned again. I thought that was fabulous. And I know that in the comics after Civil War, there's, let me see real quick. Okay, so here's Mulan. So quick rundown on him. If you don't know comics, Mulan is basically like an energy vampire who tracks Spider-Man across different dimensions. And I was thinking they might introduce him in this, maybe trying to tie it into the Spider-Verse somehow. But clearly that was wrong. However, I am excited. This right here. So when we see his death fighting Mulan, he reemerges with the spirit of the other, and it was very similar to in the movie. There's a scene where he wakes up outside in like a cocoon after passing out, and that really made me think they were going with the spirit of the other and spider totems, which is really weird and very comic book, and I enjoy that very much. But evidently they didn't go that route, so it's totally fine. I wanted to ramble about the movie for a little bit. I would definitely recommend going and seeing it. I really liked the Punisher. John Berthenol's Punisher in that movie is fabulous. And I haven't seen the movie, I forget what it's called, that released on Disney Plus, One Last Kill or One Last something like that, I think it's called. I forget. But the one that came out on Disney Plus, I haven't seen. And it feels like he's a step different than the character I watched for 2 seasons in the 2 Netflix original seasons. And maybe that's explained better in the movie, or in the Punisher movie that they came out with on Disney Plus, but I don't know. I really enjoyed Jean Grey. That was a really interesting take on Jean Grey, because I'm going to be so for real. Every other take on Jean Grey has been pretty bad, in my opinion. I like comic books. I like X-Men, and I really like the new X-Men 97 that's coming out on Disney Plus. I really have been enjoying that, because they do my favorite X-Men, Gambit. They do my boy good in that show. Anyways, I haven't seen season 2 yet. I'm waiting for it all to come out. But I really have enjoyed that. And in that show, they do Jean Grey fairly well. But it's also, Jean Grey is, in movies especially, they always focus on her being the Phoenix, or the host of the Phoenix Force. And I feel like that's an extremely boring take. And I forget where I heard it or read it, but when the original original writer of the Phoenix comics, the person who introduced the Phoenix Force, when he wrote those, it was to give Jean Grey something more than token girl on team, and so that may not be exactly how it's said, but that's how I remember it. And so anyways, I just remember thinking, wow, it's not great, but I really liked this take on Jean Grey. And I didn't know, and I've never heard of, and maybe somebody else has, but that Jean Grey has a sister, which also I didn't know about Cassandra Xavier, Charles Xavier's sister, until the Deadpool Wolverine movie, because that led me down another rabbit hole of comic books and stuff. So anyways, that's just where I'm at. I really think the movie was fairly good. I would say it's probably a 9 out of 10, in my opinion. And I've read lots of comic books and lots of Spider-Man comic books. Spider-Man is literally my favorite superhero, of all time. Probably always will be, especially, I'm going to be honest, Tom Holland is now 100% my favorite Spider-Man. For a long time, it was Tobey Maguire was my favorite Spider-Man. And when I was a kid, that was my idol, But especially new costume and everything, and it's he feels like Spider-Man now, which is shocking to say, but in the MCU it makes sense, because his first couple of movies were, he was following in the trail left behind by Iron Man, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's an interesting take on the character, but it's also very clearly, it didn't feel like a Spider-Man story. And this one very much did, and I loved it. I thought it was fabulous. And it really gets kind of the heart of Spider-Man, in my opinion, which is, no matter how beaten down you are, you got to get back up and keep going, And that caring for everyone, everyone is worth caring for. That's another thing that I feel like is somewhat universal through Spider-Man comics. Now, there are some comics where it definitely does not focus on that, but I feel like that is a through line that is presented in many, many, many Spider-Man comics. And of course, though, with great power comes great responsibility. I know it's reversed in the camera, but anyways, I hope y'all go and watch the movie and let me know what y'all think, because I really, really enjoyed it.